The gallows creaked like a hungry beast. The rope, thick as a man's wrist, swayed slightly in the pale dawn wind. It waited, looped like a noose of justice or vengeance, depending on who you asked. Dust hung in the air. Not even 6 a.m., and Red Hollow's townsfolk had already gathered, boots stomping, whispers buzzing, and eyes glittering like crows over carrion. The preacher had arrived to read last rites. The undertaker stood nearby, leaning on an empty coffin. And in the center of it all stood Evelyn Ray, barefoot, bruised, and sentenced to die. They didn't bother with shoes or decency for condemned women. Sheriff Ward adjusted the brim of his hat and nodded toward the platform. "Time to go, miss." Ray. Evelyn's hands were bound behind her back. Rope had rubbed her wrists raw, but she walked without flinching. Her dirty white dress clung to her like a burial shroud. She had been beautiful once, but now? Now she was a ghost in a woman's skin. She walked past the crowd, their faces a blur of disgust, curiosity, and quiet satisfaction. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Old men spat tobacco juice at her feet. A few younger men watched with. Something darker in their gaze, less judgment, more hunger. "Witch," someone hissed. "Murderer." "Devil woman." Evelyn kept walking. They shoved her up the stairs. She stumbled once, but didn't fall. Sheriff Ward cleared his throat at the top of the platform. "Evelyn Ray, you stand here convicted by jury for the murder of Deputy Clay. Mathers, the court of Red Hollow sentences you to hang by the neck until dead. May God have mercy on your soul." The preacher opened his Bible. "If you have any last words." "Child." Evelyn turned her head slowly, scanning the sea of faces. And then she said, clear as glass, "He touched me. Every night. And no one believed me." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a rock through still water. Sheriff Ward flinched, but Evelyn wasn't done. Her voice sharpened, cut through the early light like a knife. "He was your law, your hero. And he crawled into my room like a snake in the dark." The preacher went pale. Sheriff Ward motioned to the hangman. The hood came down. Evelyn's head disappeared beneath it. Someone in the crowd sobbed. The noose slipped around her neck. And then boom. A gunshot cracked through the silence. The birds scattered like startled ghosts. A rider appeared on the horizon, a black silhouette against the rising sun. Horse hooves pounded. Dust rose like a storm cloud behind him. He moved fast, too fast. The crowd turned. Men reached for their rifles. The hangman froze. The rider didn't stop. He thundered straight toward the gallows, twin revolvers shining like mirrors of death. He reined in hard at the foot of the platform. His black duster flared like wings, and he spoke. "You hang my bride, and I burn your town to ash." Gasps, murmurs. A woman screamed. Someone dropped a tin cup. The rider dismounted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wore black from head to toe, except for silver pistols hanging low on each hip. His face was half shadow, half scar. His eyes were like cold rivers deep, unblinking, an ancient dot. Someone whispered his name. Colt McCrae. The sheriff stepped forward. "Now listen, McCrae." Colt pointed one of his silver revolvers. At the rope, another crack. The noose snapped, the bullet slicing it like thread. Evelyn dropped to her knees, coughing, the hood still over her head. Colt leapt up the platform steps in 3 strides. He ripped the hood off. Evelyn's hair spilled out, tangled and damp. She blinked, stunned. "Get up," Colt muttered. What?" "Play along," he growled, voice low enough only she could hear. "Why?" "Because if you don't, you'll really die today." He hauled her to her feet and turned toward the sheriff. "You hanged the wrong woman. She's mine, Evelyn McCrae, my wife. And if you think you can hang my wife and walk away breathing, you're dumber than you look." Sheriff Ward stared. That ain't no marriage I've ever seen documented. Who? Needs paper when you've got bullets? Colt cocked his second revolver. Now move. The townsfolk were stunned, frozen. Colt's name carried too much weight. Too many stories. Some said he'd killed 30 men before breakfast. Some said he couldn't be killed. Most just said he was born with a gun in each hand and a devil in his chest. The preacher backed away. The undertaker took his coffin and vanished like mist. Sheriff Ward hesitated, hands twitching near his belt. Colt saw it. You want to draw? Colt asked, quiet and deadly. No, Ward replied. Then step aside. And he did. Colt dragged Evelyn down the steps, one arm wrapped around her waist like a shield. She stumbled beside him, her breath still ragged, her eyes darting. What the hell is this? She whispered. Rescue, he muttered. Now shut up and move your legs. Bullets might have flown. Maybe not. Colt moved too fast for anyone to aim. He threw her up onto his horse like a sack of flour, then swung up behind her. One kick, and they were gone. The crowd just watched them disappear into the dust. Back on the gallows, the broken rope swung in the breeze like a serpent with no head. A mile out, they finally slowed. Evelyn gripped the saddle horn so tight her knuckles went white. Start talking, she hissed. Colt didn't look at her. Not yet. We're still in rifle range. I was gonna die. And you just what? Claimed I was your bride? Would you rather be dead? Evelyn opened her mouth, then closed it. He had a point. The world blurred past them in smudges of rock and sagebrush. Sunlight climbed higher, turning the hills gold. Evelyn felt sick, nauseous. She was supposed to be dead. But now, her wrists were still bleeding, and her so-called husband rode like the devil himself chased him. Why? She finally asked, softer now. Colt didn't answer for a long while. Then, because you're innocent. And you looked. Death in the eye without blinking. I didn't ask you to save me. I didn't ask your permission. She fell silent. They rode for another mile before Colt finally stopped beneath a rock outcrop, shaded and hidden from view. He dismounted and reached up to help her down. She slapped his hand away. I can walk. She hit the ground awkwardly, knees buckling, but she stayed standing. Colt raised an eyebrow. She glared at him. I'm not your bride, she said. Colt gave a half smile, something wolfish and tired. Not yet, she stared. Excuse me? He leaned against his saddle, unholstering a flask and taking a swig. They're gonna come after you. A posse, bounty hunters, maybe worse. Unless they believe the story. You want me to pretend? To be your wife? I want you to live. Evelyn looked away. Her throat felt tight. Somewhere inside her, the fear began to melt into something else. Confusion, heat, anger, maybe even hope. It tangled up in her chest like barbed wire. Why risk it? She asked. Why care? Colt stared off into the distance. His voice, when it came, was low and tired. Because a long time ago, I let a girl hang. She screamed for help. I didn't come. Not that time. But I came for you. Silence. Wind whistled through the rocks. And Evelyn Ray, who had walked to her own death, with fire in her eyes, felt something strange stir inside her. The wind bit sharp as they rode hard out of Red Hollow, following no road, only instinct. Colt didn't slow, didn't speak. Evelyn clung to the saddle horn, the ache in her bound wrists pulsing with each gallop. Behind them, the town vanished. Into the morning dust, ahead. Unknown, and Evelyn didn't trust him, not fully, not yet. But one truth settled inside her like a hard coin dropped in a well. She was alive. And she owed that to a gunslinger with haunted eyes and a name that scared. Men out of their boots. By mid-morning, They reached a dry arroyo half-choked with mesquite and shade. Colt pulled the horse into cover and dismounted in one swift motion. Down, he ordered. Evelyn slid down, legs wobbling. He glanced at her wrists, still bound. "Gimme your hands." She hesitated and held them out. He drew a knife, not fast, not threatening, and cut the rope clean. The moment it dropped, she winced and rubbed her wrists, skin raw and red. "You all right?" he asked. "No," she snapped. "You kidnapped me from a hanging." "You're welcome," he muttered. They sat beneath a crooked cottonwood, each chewing jerky in silence. The world around them buzzed with heat and flies. Colt's black horse grazed nearby, unbothered. "Where are we going?" Evelyn asked. "Northwest. Over Black Vulture Ridge. No one'll follow us there. Too many ghosts." She snorted. "You believe in ghosts?" He looked at her, serious. "I've made a few." Evelyn went quiet. Then, "Why'd you do it?" "You already asked that." "Yeah, and I still don't believe your answer." Colt sighed. "Because I was there when they hung Clara Dawson. She was 16. They called her a thief, but she was just starving. I did nothing. I was wearing a badge. Back then." She blinked. "You were a lawman?" He nodded, eyes distant. "US Marshal, until the law got dirty. So now you just wander around saving girls from gallows?" He smirked. "Just the loud ones." She didn't laugh, but her lips twitched. By nightfall, they found a gully sheltered by rock. Colt made a fire with practiced speed, tight, controlled, small enough not to draw attention. Evelyn warmed her hands near it, watching him closely. He moved like a man who didn't waste energy. Every motion precise. Measured. Dangerous. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" she asked. He leaned back against a boulder. "My daddy gave me a pistol before he gave me a hug. Said men only respect death." Evelyn looked down at the flames. "My father was a preacher." "Ironic. Tell me about it." Double quotes pause. Colt handed her a blanket. "Get some sleep. We ride early." Evelyn pulled the blanket tight around her. She didn't sleep. Not really. But she watched the stars above and wondered if maybe, just maybe, the devil had ridden in to save her. The next morning, they moved before sun up. Colt handed her a saddlebag with stale bread and water. Evelyn took it, her stomach gnawing. "You ever shot a gun?" he asked. She raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like someone who has?" He pulled a revolver from his coat and held it out. Evelyn stared. "What is this?" she asked. "Lesson time?" "You're gonna need it. I'm not shooting anyone." "You were hung for killing a man." "That was different." "No, it wasn't," he said flatly. "That was survival. So is this." She hesitated, then took the gun. It was heavier than she expected. Cold, real. He showed her how to hold it. Thumb the hammer. Line up the sights. Breathe. They set up a bottle on a log. "Go ahead," Colt said. "Shoot." She aimed, held her breath. Pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. He smirked. "Safety's on. Damn you. You're welcome." By noon, they reached higher ground. Mountains loomed in the distance like watching gods. The land grew rockier, wilder. Trees replaced dust. Evelyn's legs ached, but she didn't complain. They passed an abandoned mining shack. Evelyn saw bullet holes in the walls. Colt gave it one glance and kept riding. "We stopping?" she asked. "Not here. Too open." "You really think they're coming after us?" "I don't think. I know." She swallowed. They made camp near a cold stream that night. Evelyn washed her face and stared at her reflection in the dark water. "I don't look like me anymore," she whispered. Colt knelt beside her, refilling canteens. "You look like someone who survived." She turned to him. You talk like you've been running forever. He didn't respond, Dot, so she asked, softer now. Who was she? He looked up. The girl you didn't save. Clara. What happened? They hung her for stealing bread. I stood 20 feet away and told myself. It wasn't my problem. He looked into the trees. Later, I killed the man who arrested her, but it didn't fix anything. Evelyn's voice cracked. That's what they said about Clay, the deputy. Colt glanced at her. Dot, she went on. He came into my room drunk. Said no one would believe me if I screamed. Said I owed him, since he let me stay on at the boarding house for free. Colt's jaw clenched. I told the sheriff. He laughed. Sighed maybe I was confused. She smiled bitterly. I wasn't. I know, Colt said. I know the kind of men who wear the law like armor. They sat in silence. Evelyn looked at the gun beside her bedroll. Show me again, she said. How to shoot. The next day, everything changed. They rode into a ravine thick with cottonwoods. The wind was dead still. Colt's eyes narrowed. Something's wrong. He drew his gun. Crack! A rifle shot rang out. Colt's shoulder jerked back, blood blooming red. Didn't fall, but Evelyn screamed. He turned the horse fast, rode for cover. Arm limped out behind them. 4 riders emerged on the ridge. Guns drawn. Dust cloaked their faces. Hold on, Colt growled, one hand barely on the reins. Evelyn gripped the saddle. Bullets ripped the trees around them. Colt grunted in pain, but kept the horse moving until they slid behind a cluster of rock and brush. He slumped to the ground, panting. Evelyn dropped beside him. You're hit. Just a scratch, he grunted. Blood poured down his sleeve. You're bleeding like a pig. You've met pigs that bleed this much? Damn. You, she whispered, tearing part of her dress to make a crude bandage. You keep doing that, he mumbled. What? Cussing at me. I'm starting to think you care. Shut up. She wrapped his shoulder tight. He winced but didn't cry out. Gunfire echoed nearby. We have to move, she said. He grabbed her arm. No, you take the horse and run. No, Evelyn, I said no, she shouted. You didn't leave me on that gallows. I'm not leaving you now. Pause. You're stubborn, he said. She wiped sweat from her brow. I've been called worse. They dragged him to a half-collapsed dugout and barricaded the door with logs. Evelyn loaded both their guns. She peeked out. They'll be on us soon, she whispered. Colt lay on the floor, pale. You got 6 shots. Don't need more. He looked at her, smiling weakly. What? You've got fire in you. You'd scare the devil himself. I'm scared, she admitted. That's good. Means you'll fight smart. She stared at him. You really think I can do this? He nodded. You've already done what most can't. You lived. A whistle outside, then a voice. We know you're in there, Colt. You hand over the girl, and we let you bleed to death slow. For you both die now. Evelyn's hands trembled on the grip of her pistol. Colt's eyes locked with hers. You know what to do. She nodded once and smiled, feral, defiant. Outside, boots scraped gravel. Horses snorted. Metal clinked rifle barrels, spurs, cartridges sliding into chambers. Inside the dugout, Evelyn Ray gripped Colt's revolver with both hands. Her fingers were slick with sweat, her heart thundering. Like hooves across dry earth. Colt lay beside her, pale and bleeding, a sheen of pain on his forehead. He was fading fast. 5 of them, she whispered. He opened one eye. 4. One's bluffing. How do you know? Always 1, 2. Scared to shoot but brave enough to talk. A bullet slammed into the outer wall. Dust rained from the ceiling. Evelyn flinched, then ducked back behind a crate. You okay? Colt asked. She nodded tightly. I'm fine, he coughed. You sure? No, she admitted. But I'm not dying here. Not like this. The gang outside shouted again. McCrae, you got 10 seconds. We'll light this place up. Colt reached for his other revolver with his good hand and nudged it toward her. Take this one, too. I already have one. You'll need two. Evelyn looked down at him. You gonna die on me? He gave a dry smile. Not if you. Shoot straight. She slid the second gun into her waistband. Her voice cracked. Why are they after you? They're bounty scum. 30 grand says I'm worth more dead than most banks. They said to give me up. They want you because you humiliated Red Hollow. They can't let you disappear. You were supposed to die. Another bullet ripped through the dugout wall. Evelyn snarled and peeked through a crack. She saw one rider breaking off to circle left. They're flanking, she whispered. Colt's voice dropped. You ever shoot a man? She shook her head. No. Good. Means your first one'll be honest. The world shrank to firelight and gunmetal. Colt's blood seeped into the dirt beneath him. He whispered something. Evelyn leaned in. What? He blinked slowly. You've got the same look Clara did. Before they put the noose around her neck. You're Clara? He nodded once. She had no one. You've got me. Evelyn's eyes burned. She wiped them quickly. No time for crying. Colt grunted and tried to sit up. Lie still, damn it, she whispered. I'll shoot. Just gimme something to lean on. You're half dead. He smiled again. Only half. Gunfire erupted outside, wild and sudden. A bullet punched through the roof, grazing Evelyn's shoulder. She hissed and dropped flat. Time's up, a voice bellowed. Evelyn peeked out. A rider galloped toward the front, firing. She didn't. Think. She stood. Aimed. Bang. The rider jerked, slumped, and tumbled off his horse. The revolver kicked so hard it jarred her shoulder, but she didn't stop. She turned, saw another rider darting through the trees. Bang. Miss. Bang. Hit. The man screamed and fell sideways. 2 down. Colt barked from the corner. Left side. She turned just in time to see a third rider crest the ridge behind them. He aimed his shotgun at the roof. Boom. Wood exploded. Evelyn hit the ground again, coughing from the dust and smoke. Colt dragged himself forward, propped against the wall, and fired one shot. Crack. The rider pitched forward off, his horse like a rag doll. 3 down. Evelyn scrambled to the window. They're falling back. No, Colt grunted. They're regrouping. He coughed again, blood on his lips. She looked at him, really looked. The sweat, the pallor, the trembling hand. He was close to passing out. She knelt beside him, cradled his head. Stay with me, she whispered. He stared at her, dazed. Didn't think I'd die next to someone pretty. She laughed once, sharp and broken. You're not dying, Colt McCrae. You hear me? He tried to smirk. Bossy. I said shut up and stay awake. Silence outside. Evelyn pressed her back against the door and listened. Nothing. Then dash. The creak of a boot. Too close. She turned. A shadow fell across the busted window. A face appeared, scarred. Cruel, sneering. Evelyn fired without thinking. The man dropped. She gasped, stepped back. Gun still smoking. Colt blinked. That makes 4. Damn right it does. She crawled over to Colt again and unbuckled his holster. What are you doing? He murmured. Getting us out of this. You've got one left out there. I'll handle him. Colt shook his head. He's not like the others. He's smart. That's his mistake. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Being smart? Colt smiled faintly. Underestimating you. Minutes passed. No movement. No sound. Evelyn stood at the door, both guns in hand. breath shallow dot, then dash HOOFBEATS dot, a single rider dot deliberate, dot T stopped just 20 feet from the dugout. I know you're in there. Girl, he called, voice calm. Cold. I saw what you did. You've got grit. I respect that. Evelyn didn't reply. He chuckled. But this ain't your fight. He's a wanted man. He's gonna bleed out anyway. Why die for him? Still, she stayed silent. You give me McCrae, and I'll let you ride off clean. No gallows, no bounty, just a quiet life. She looked at Colt. He was barely conscious, his chest rising slow. She turned back toward the door and stepped out. Ryder was lean. Dusty hat, long coat, long rifle resting easy across his lap. His horse shifted beneath him, sensing the tension. You her? He asked. The gallows bride? Evelyn raised both pistols. Damn right I am. She fired. The rider dodged, rolled off his horse, and returned fire. Bullets whizzed past Evelyn's ear. She dropped, rolled behind a log, and fired again. Miss. Miss. Click. Empty. She threw Colt's revolver aside, pulled the second one, popped up, and shot the man in the thigh. He screamed, staggered, aimed. Bang. Evelyn dropped her last bullet straight into his chest. Silence returned. She stood, trembling. Then walked slowly toward the body. The man coughed once, blood on his lips. Didn't think? You had it in you, he rasped. She crouched beside him. Neither did I, he smiled, eyes glassing over. You're something else. Then he died. She stood there for a long moment, then walked back into the dugout. Colt lay still. Colt? She whispered. Nothing. She dropped to her knees, touched his face. No, not now. Don't you dare. She put her head on his chest. Thump. Faint. But there. She exhaled. You stubborn bastard. That night, she built a fire and stitched his wound with shaking hands. She boiled water, cleaned his fevered skin, fed him broth. By dawn, he blinked awake. Still here? He murmured. Evelyn laughed, tried to leave. Horse likes you better. He grinned faintly. Told you you'd shoot straight. I was aiming for his head. They rested a day, and two. Colt healed slow. But he healed. Evelyn kept the guns nearby at all times. She practiced shooting every morning. And one night, as Colt sat watching the stars, she sat beside him. You really think we can disappear? She asked. Colt looked at her. I disappeared once. It's harder to come back. She frowned. What do you mean? I let the law break me, turned me into something else. But saving you? He paused. Felt like coming back. She said nothing, then leaned her head on his good shoulder. Thanks for coming back. Days later, they crossed into wild country pine forests, distant rivers, the kind of land that didn't care what you'd done. Colt rode better each day. Evelyn rode like she'd been born in the saddle. One morning, she looked back and smiled. Reckon they'll tell stories about us? Colt tipped his hat. Only if we survive, she grinned. Then let's give them a hell of a tale. Thunder rolled across the high plains. Colt McCrae and Evelyn Ray stood at the edge of a crumbling ridge, the valley below blanketed in fog. Pines whispered in the wind. Ravens circled like omens overhead. They were almost there, just past these. Ridges and rivers lay the black vulture border. No laws. No nooses. Just open sky and enough distance between them and Red Hollow to let the past die in the dust. But the past had one more shot to take. The ambush came at dusk. 3 riders' faces, hidden behind red scarves, rifles slung across their backs emerged. From the trees, just as Colt unsaddled the horse near a stream, Evelyn saw them first. Her hand went to the Colt .45 holstered on her hip. Too late. Drop it. One man barked. Rifle leveled at her. She froze. Colt turned slowly, eyes narrowing. If you're smart, you'll walk away. You're worth 30 grand, McCrae, the tallest rider said. That makes us smart enough. Evelyn glanced at Colt. His gun was still strapped to the horse. He wouldn't reach it in time, but she already had hers, and she was tired of being a victim. The first shot came from her. Hand, bang, the man closest to her collapsed with a scream. Blood blooming across his thigh. Chaos exploded. Colt dove for his gun. The second rider fired and missed. Barely. Evelyn rolled. Fired again. Bang, a clean hit to the gut. Colt shot the last one dead center in the chest. Just like that, the woods went quiet. Breathing hard, Evelyn stood, gun still raised. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Colt walked over, took the weapon gently from her grip. You all right? He asked. She nodded slowly. Yeah, just didn't think I'd be the one to finish it. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, You're not who you were. She looked down at the bodies. Neither are you. They buried the men. Before nightfall. There were no prayers. Just dirt and silence, and the distant sound of wolves. That night, they sat by the fire, knees almost touching. The stars were sharp, like glass spilled across velvet. Colt winced as he adjusted his arm. You've gotten good, he said. At what? Shooting. Staying alive. Talking back. She smirked. I've had the best outlaw training money can't buy. He studied her face, the firelight dancing in her eyes, her skin smudged with soot and determination. You ever think about what comes next? He asked, all the time. And she looked up at the stars. I don't want to hide forever. I want something real. A home. Maybe even peace. Colt chuckled low. That's a tall order. Evelyn turned to him. You ever have peace? Colt? He looked into the fire. Once, for about 10 minutes. Then I killed the man who gave it to me. Silence. Then she whispered, You didn't just save me from the noose. You saved the part of me I thought had already died. He looked at her. That makes us even. Morning broke with a gold sky and no pursuit behind them. They crossed into Black Vulture territory before noon-high cliffs, canyons, and ridges. That swallowed the wind. By midday, they found a cabin tucked deep in the woods. Abandoned, but still standing. A broken roof. A tilted chimney. Wildflowers growing through the floor. Evelyn stepped inside first. It's a ruin, she said. Colt leaned against the doorway, surveying it. It's a start. They worked in. Silence. Colt chopped wood while Evelyn swept out dust and chased raccoons off the porch. She laughed when one bit his boot, and he cursed so loud the birds scattered. That night, they cooked beans over the fire. Evelyn leaned back, chewing thoughtfully. Ever been married? She asked. Colt shook his head. Almost once. What happened? I rode off to kill a man. Took too long. When I came back, she'd married the blacksmith. Evelyn smiled faintly. You sure know how to pick him. He chuckled. You? I was almost a preacher's wife. He raised an eyebrow. That tracks. She looked down. He died in a fire. Saved 3 orphans first. Didn't make it out. Colt didn't say anything. Just reached over and put his hand over hers. Weeks passed. The cabin became a home. The scars on Colt's shoulder faded. Evelyn's fear became fire. She hunted, cooked, rebuilt. He taught her to ride bareback. She taught him how to laugh again. They found a rhythm. They found each other. And one day, Colt came back from the creek, hands behind his back. I found something, he said. What? He pulled out a delicate silver ring. It ain't much, he said, voice rough. But I thought maybe. You'd want to make the lie real. Evelyn blinked. You serious? I've never been more. She stared at him, then held out her hand. Then what the hell took you so long? He slid the ring onto her finger. They didn't say vows. They didn't need to. They were already bound by blood, by fire, by bullet. Years later, a woman walked into a general store in a mountain town far from Red Hollow. She wore a wide-brimmed hat and carried a revolver on her hip. Her coat was patched but clean. Her boots dusty but strong. The townsfolk didn't ask questions, but they noticed how she carried herself, like someone who'd outrun death and made peace with it. Behind her came a tall man, gray at the temples, limp in his step, but sharp-eyed and calm. They bought flour, sugar, and bullets, the storekeeper squinted. Ain't you? No, the woman said. I'm Evelyn McCrae, and that's my husband. The man nodded. We mind our business. You should too. The storekeeper smiled nervously. Sure thing. Didn't see nothing. They walked out with supplies and kept moving. Back at the cabin, Evelyn unpacked. Colt started the fire. A moment passed. Then she said, You think anyone in Red Hollow still tells the story? Colt shrugged. Maybe. The tale of the girl who escaped the noose and ran off with the killer? She smiled. Sounds like a dime. Novel. He grinned. We should write it ourselves. Clean up the ending. She walked over, curled beside him on the old couch. The ending's just fine, she whispered, because we're still writing it. They said she was guilty. They said he was death on a horse. But when the rope tightened and the bullets flew, two broken souls chose each other. Not because they were perfect, but because they were free. And in the West, freedom's all you ever really own.